I know that my parents had an existing mortgage, on their property, so I knew I needed, X $100,000 to pay off that mortgage, and that was what I was gunning for. It was a definitive figure. I did not want my parents to have any debt, or any of their, or their property to have any encumbrances. So, call it $100,000, and so I would work towards building enough equity in my own portfolio, or earning enough income as I build my investment property portfolio to reallocate my redraw or my offset account, and transfer that into the loan of my parents' account. It's indescribable, Jonno. Just knowing that my parents have got no commitments on a monthly basis. Every dollar that they have saved, earned in their lifetime goes towards their retirement.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership Conversations with Jonno White podcast. Today's guest is Colin Lee. Now, I've known Colin for a little while, and one of the things that stands out for me about Colin, firstly, is when it comes to networking, which is just one part of the myriad of things that Colin does. He is a Superman, but he's also a Superman in many other ways, including being CEO and founder of Inspire Realty. I'll let him tell you a bit more about what he does as well. Welcome to the podcast, Colin.
Thank you, Jonno. I like it. I'm Superman. There you go.
I know. I don't know if I've given anyone else that phrase, so you no pressure. As I said, you do a lot of things. I mentioned Inspire Realty, but just tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump in.
Yeah, so I'll talk about it from, I guess, the amount of time that I spend at the moment. I spend the vast majority of my time as the CEO and founder of Inspire Realty. We're a property buyers agency and a property investment advisory firm. Bottom line is my passion is to empower a generation of Australians, particularly migrants, to take charge of their financial futures by investing in good, right, profitable property opportunities and build a good, profitable portfolio. It's what I do. And I probably spend about 70% of my time building that. That is my mission. That is my marketplace that I spend the vast majority of my time doing. And I am a Superman when it comes to networking. I'd like to be better known as that's my superpower in strategic networking. All that is about building my influence. It's about building my impact and inspiring people with my own personal journey so that they can be the best version of themselves, to live life to the fullest, to be an inspiration, quite simply. So that probably takes up anywhere between 10 to 20% of my time. Strategically, though, that is also obviously a bit of a funnel that is for me to establish relationships with key partnerships and relationships with referrals and building a partnership pool for my clients, if they need financial planners, mortgage brokers, accountants. These are the people that I can plug into my client's property journey. So technically that's part of Inspire Realty as well. But I do spend a lot of time getting involved with my church, obviously. That's generally in the weekend. I do serve on the worship team as well, amongst many other things that I'm involved with the church. I do run a connect group. So that's my weekend. But I also spend a lot of time with my family. I've got a 5-year-old girl. I'm married to a wonderful wife who's also part of the business. My family is in Sydney, so I do fly back quite frequently to Sydney to visit them. But the other part of what I do is I've also recently founded the Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network, which is a group of Christian business owners, higher end, generally turning over between $1 million to $10 million. I have an exceptionally inspiring keynote speaker that comes to share their story of how they're able to merge and integrate their marketplace and the ministry and the mission field that they're in. So I wear a few different hats, but Superman is definitely not one of them yet.
Well, yeah, I think you are. I think you're very influential. And let's jump straight into your story, because I've been looking forward to asking you some of these questions and getting to know you more here on the podcast. The first question I ask every guest: as you look back at your childhood growing up, are there any moments that really stand out to you that shaped Colin Lee into the leader that you are today?
Absolutely. I I can't probably. I mean, I'm sure when I was 2 to 19, there has been a lot of experiences. I do come from a very loving Christian family, so I
Hmm.
haven't had a lot of, I guess, negative experience, so to say, or traumatic experience. But a big turning point in my life was at the age of 19, and
Mm.
that really started my journey of really understanding deeper into why I am the person that I am today, which is driven. I'm very ambitious. I'm a go-getter. I
Mm.
put myself out there. I don't care very much what people think of me. I'm bold. I'm courageous. I'm dominant. I'm as out there and extroverted as you can
Hmm.
experience. And a lot of that has to do with, I think, I think when I was 19, when my dad came into the dining room and he basically says, "Kiddos, we've got some news for you." And I've got two younger siblings, that was with me. And he basically says, "We're migrating. We're moving countries, for good. So pack your bags. We're literally moving within 8 to 9 months. You've got three suitcases each, and we're moving to Australia."
Wow.
And it really shook me in the sense that we were
Mm.
so used to we live in a really nice house. We've got helpers, believe it or not.
Mm.
And so life was very, very good. And just knowing that we're going to be completely uprooted and moving into a completely new space, new culture, new life, new country, which I've never even been to Australia,
Mm.
prior to migrating to Australia. So it's been a brand new experience. And I found out obviously much later on that one of the key reasons why that happened was because Dad was growing very tired of his role in the bank. We do live in Malaysia, and with a lot of respect to my Malaysian friends, Malaysians are predominantly Muslim country, and
Mm.
being Chinese and Christians, that hasn't really been, we weren't able to freely express ourselves, and to be really thriving in a community. So Dad, said we're moving. And so in 2000, we arrived into Sydney shortly after the Olympics, and a completely brand new culture. Dad, I think, had an idea and this dream that he could integrate and get a job back in the bank. And I certainly didn't know as a 19-year-old that Dad hadn't lined up any jobs. He literally gave everything up. It was like burning the bridge,
Wow.
and then setting a new path. Getting on the boat and just move. Uh, but
Mm.
mom and dad were skilled. Obviously, mom was very educated. She's got two masters from
Mm.
Oxford in law. So I think they had a sense of confidence that they would arrive in a brand new country and they would get
Mm.
into a role fairly easily. But that's not the case, Jono. It took my dad 9 months to find a job.
Wow.
And eventually he had to settle as a business analyst. He couldn't get a job back in the bank. You know why? Because they would always say to him, he doesn't have local experience.
Hmm.
And how are you supposed to get a local experience if you've never worked here before? And I think that's the story of a
Mm.
lot of migrants. Mum, unfortunately, so he ended up working took on a job as a business analyst. And he,
Mm.
sometimes he comes home jokingly says, Colin, I'm almost 50, but my boss is a 25-year-old, Uh, and
Wow.
mum was you got to my mum is a senior law lecturer, and the only role
Mm.
that she could get was a role as a paralegal. I don't know if you know this,
Wow.
John, but that was like you're at the peak of your career, and now you're at the
Mm.
bottom of your career ladder. Having to start
Mm.
again. And so at the age of 21, as the eldest child, I got to witness the sacrifice and the price that both my parents paid really for us. I mean, for
Mm.
them, they would have been far better off living in Malaysia where all our relatives, their friends, their
Mm.
colleagues, the house, the helpers, the nice car, everything. I mean, they had everything. There was no real
Mm.
reason for them to move. And it really has been also for us kids. So I got to experience that. And I think that really shaped my frame, my paradigm, because that's when I had to grow up, and I,
Yeah.
I started, thinking to myself that my dream, if I could one day, I would retire both my parents and
Mm.
give back what they have sacrificed for us all these
Mm.
years, and the sad reality is they didn't have any. They took all their super and they used that as part of the deposit to purchase a property, because
Yeah.
Malaysian ringgit's a lot less, and they gave everything up. and And every dollar that they earned was there to support my education, my university, my sisters and brothers' private school fees. They didn't have much
Mm,
to show for it at the end of the day. So the amount of sacrifice and the price they paid as parents, I simply wanted to honor them, you know.
mm,
Um, and that was how I started. And so that, man, that gave me a fire in my belly, because I thought, if it's going to be, if it's going to be up to me now. I am their retirement plan.
wow.
So I had a dream that one day, if I could, at the age of 21, I said, I'm going to retire my parents, you know?
Mm,
I did that 7 years ago, Jono. I
wow.
retired my parents seven
Tell me
years ago.
about that moment. Tell me about the moment when you knew that,
Mm,
um, whether it was at that moment or maybe a couple of years before, where you knew this is going to happen. I'm actually going to be able to achieve this
mm.
dream since you were 19, 21.
It's a good question. I know that my parents had an existing mortgage,
Mm,
on their property. So I knew I needed, X $100,000 to pay off that mortgage, and that was what I was gunning for.
mm-hmm.
It was a definitive figure. I did not want my parents to have any debt, or any of their of their property to have any encumbrances. So,
Yeah.
call it $100,000, and so I would work towards building enough equity in my own portfolio, or earning enough income as I build my investment property portfolio, to reallocate my redraw or my offset account, and transfer that into the loan of my parents' account. And it's indescribable, Jono. Just knowing that my parents have got no
Mm,
commitments on a monthly basis. Every dollar that they have saved, earned in their lifetime, goes towards their retirement. And obviously, ever since then, it's more than that. It's, funding my parents on their holidays. My parents travel about 3 months in a year.
mm.
Certainly a lot more than what I'm traveling at the moment, but they deserve it.
Oh, they do,
And
yeah.
and so that's been a rewarding moment. That's a moment where it just comes full circle for all that my parents have done for three of us. We're able to
Mm,
pay it back forward for my parents. And
mm,
yeah, it's the most inspiring moment one can ever go through to achieve that. And obviously, now that that's happened, my inspiration now, motivation, is to inspire a generation of Australians to figure out
mm.
what their why is. You got to know your why, because that
Yeah.
is what moved me. That gave me a fire in the belly. So that's why I had blinkers
Mm.
off. My wife often talks about me having blinkers off. So I'm so dead focused. Sometimes I don't care what people's, because I don't care. I'm moving towards a goal that is
Yeah.
worthy of my efforts, and my time. So it
Mm.
is a weakness at the same time. I'm not trying to say that, I have not ruffled some feathers along the way. But you've got to have a strong motivation and inspiration as to why. I mean, you look at BX, right? Some people they just look at me and go, this is too much. This is overwhelming. He's too loud. He's too bold. He's too outspoken. He's too, what's the word? It is too directive. I don't know. I mean, and this is, yeah, but you keep focus. You focus. You
Mm.
keep, take no credit on the things that you've done. Take no blame. Just keep focus on your chief aim, as one of the authors,
Mm.
Dr. John D. Martini, talks a lot about. And so that's what I've been focused on. But it's a great feeling, just, you know, all these years of focusing on that one key thing, and that is to retire my parents, and being able to
Mm.
achieve that is, yeah, it's
It's
such an
such a great
enjoyable.
story. I mean, it's not just a great story because it's really touching to hear the story, but I think the way it links to what you do every day in your business
Mm,
is really cool. I love that. Um,
mm,
I find I've had a lot of people on the podcast who have moved countries
mm,
at some point or growing up, and so it's amazing how often it comes up. And I think that's because it's usually such a life defining moment to move countries that it often,
mm,
like for you, is when you look back, is a really pivotal shaping
mm,
moment.
mm.
Um, so I can't help but wonder, Colin Lee moves from Malaysia. Well, you're 19, 20, 21 when you arrive in Australia. Something, how old were you? 20. So
20.
you're 20. You arrive in Australia. take me through in that first year, in those first few years. Do you remember any particular moments for you? Because that's a bit different. Often people are moving, say, when they're 10. You're
Mm,
20.
mm,
I'm fascinated to know what it was like as a 20-year-old. Are there any moments that really stand out where you went, oh my goodness, here I am in Australia. It's so different to where I was before, or anything like that? Because I must imagine, having never done something like that before, it's about as big of a change as you can have as a 20-year-old, is to literally move countries with your family.
mm. It's a good question. Um, well, one of the things that really shocked me quite a fair bit is just
Mm,
the nature of Australians. The nature of Australians, I find they speak their mind. They're very bold in the way
mm,
they communicate. Outspoken, I would probably refer to that. Growing up in Asia, you do as you're told. You follow
mm,
instructions. You honor your parents and the elders, and you seldom speak up. And that's not what we do in school. You pretty much just follow instructions. And so
mm-hmm,
coming to Australia, just listening to people putting themselves out there, speaking what's in their mind and speaking what's true to themselves. That was a big culture shift for me, and
mm,
so I've really had to learn how to speak up because, my dad always said, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do, and it's
mm,
don't isolate, integrate. That was my dad's thing. Don't isolate, integrate. And so my
mm-hmm,
dad says, well, now you can have a fresh new start. The walls at your feet is an oyster, and do what you need to do with it. So I think I really picked up a lot of the essence of how Australians would communicate, and I kind of lived that myself. When I came, I had already completed my first year in electrical engineering.
yeah,
And so, as an intern engineer, I ended up working as an intern engineer for about a year whilst I was completing my electrical engineering degree. And
mm-hmm.
everyone in the company was so outspoken. I felt like I was a mice. I mean, I was listening, and which is interesting. So I think I've grown to be an extrovert just from the proximity of people that are around me, and I just kind of felt, well, everyone speaks up, so I might as well. And I think that's my nature anyway. So I was able to
Yeah.
kind of fully express the nature of who I am as a person. And But unfortunately, after about a year, I realized that engineering really wasn't what I wanted to do. I realized my giftedness, I realized my strength, and electrical engineering was a lot of programming, a lot of software skills,
Mm,
and sitting in front of the computer. And that's not me. I am an extrovert, so I've come to
mm,
realize. And being a software engineer requires for you to be dedicated and disciplined in front of a computer, and that's not me. So I pluck up the courage. I mean, I've learned how to be outspoken. I remember saying to my mum, Dad, I'm gonna quit uni. It's really not for me. And till this day, I'll never forget. My mum's face literally fell. And she was
wow.
so disappointed because she is very educated with two masters from Oxford. And a son who's a uni dropout. It's not good
Mm,
for her. And so, but I had to, that was a defining moment, and that's
mm,
psychologically that has certainly impacted my parents. Obviously, now they're incredibly proud, but they couldn't understand for the life of themselves why I only had about a year left to complete my university degree that I would drop out from uni. They could not
mm,
understand that. But a lot of those, skills and outspokenness was developed in my experience in the Australian culture.
yeah.
Um, but Jono, I feel privileged, and I think with a lot of migrants that you speak with, those that do well, what they're able to do is they get to step back, observe two cultures in front of them, pick the best
Mm,
of both worlds, and live their life as, for me, a Malaysian, Chinese, and Australian. And
mm,
there are certain elements about the two cultures that I really love, and I get to live in those two cultures. I genuinely feel I'm more Australian than I am Malaysian now, having lived for a lot longer in Australia than I have in Malaysia. But I'm
yeah.
still traditionally, Chinese New Year's, we do our New Year dinners, we bow before our parents, we get these red packets, and
Yeah.
so there are some traditions that we still maintain, as Chinese, Malaysian, or Asians. So we
Yeah.
get the best of both worlds, you know.
That's beautiful, and I'm so glad that you've kept that and that it
Mm.
continues to be part of who you are. But I'm also just so glad that you have embraced some of that Australian, like you said, outspokenness, because I do see that in you, and I think I think it's a wonderful thing about Australian culture, and it's a
Mm.
maybe yeah, I can't imagine the quiet Colin at
Mm.
20 watching all these outspoken others around you. So I love how outspoken you are. Um, I can't help but go straight to questions around. You have you you just have such a drive, but
Mm.
it's much more than that. I think sometimes people have a drive to get things done, but you just have done amazing things in how you brought people together around BX, which is
Mhm.
a networking group, and now launching Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network.
Mhm.
um, so I want to ask you, say that we have a listener who knows that in whatever business they're in, whatever industry they're in, they know that there's a big gap for them when it comes to networking and connecting with others. And they
Mhm.
go, you know what, in the next year, I really want to be successful in this area and add this into what I'm doing.
Mhm.
What would be your advice in terms of where to start and how to be successful for someone who's maybe never done that before?
What a wonderful question, Jonno. I didn't realize you'd be asking this question at all. Believe it or not, I've just started my second book, which is called Power in Proximity: Build Your Network, Build Your Net Worth.
Oh, I like
Let me
it.
just preface this by saying, for me, the other drive, the thing that really gets me out of bed every day is my faith. My faith has
Mm,
really formed me as a person. Being in business for all these 5.5 years, 6 years in Inspire Realty, as a Christian, that has not been the smoothest journey for me because, as Christian leaders, according to the Denver Institute, loneliness in leadership is a big problem. And I'm assuming that same challenge is across the board, whether it's spiritual or secular. And
mm,
so I needed a group of people that understand what I was going through. And the story is that 4 years ago, I was literally searching for the right proximity, the right tribe, the right group of people that I can connect with, that I can share my challenges with, my worries, whatever I'm going through in business, particularly as a
mm,
Christian. And I remember going to the Lord Mayor's prayer breakfast. And I'm quite a strategic networker, and this is one of the keys. I don't just go and say hello to everybody. I know who I want to speak to, and so
mm,
I'm always forthcoming. I'm always forward. And so I go through the entire guest list, and I saw there was two gentlemen's name, and they came from the Christian Business Network. And I remember they were seated on table 18, and I was in the back table. So I made a beeline. Introduced myself to these two gentlemen, who incidentally invited me to a breakfast with the Christian Business Network, which I then attended. About a couple of years ago, I was tapped on the shoulder and I was asked to become the president of the Christian Business Network. So
mm,
one thing led on to another. And within that time, I've also started in BX. So BX is a business networking, platform. It's B2B. And one of the things about what I love about BX is there's no expectation for you to have direct referrals. It's more about, who you know in the room and who you can connect with, who have complementary clients that you're working with and supporting and servicing. And you
mm,
can cross refer those clients, not necessarily, me becoming your client or you becoming my client. It's cross referring referral partnerships that I've got complementary clients. So, for example, I'm a buyer's agent, and my biggest referral source at the moment, Jonno, are mortgage brokers. And so
mm.
I would often be upstanding and say, my name is Colin from Inspire Realty. I do what I do because I love empowering a generation of Australians to take charge of their financial futures by investing in profitable property opportunities. I'd like to be connected to a mortgage broker. So, John, if you know of a mortgage broker, you simply write on what we call a paid forward slip, and it gets passed on. And that's how I grew my referral network and my partnerships, that I'm able to get very consistent referrals from. So, in
Mm.
parallel of running the Christian Business Network, I was also heading up the BX network. And I've grown BX from literally 8 members to 168 members, which was extraordinary. We were 2 years in a row, back to back Group of the Year back in 23 and 24. Ever since then, I've stepped down and I'm now the ambassador for BX. But growing a group from 8 to 168 is no mean feat. So
Mm,
I feel like I've got the experience. I've been there. I've been through the trenches. It's not all been
mm,
rainbows and sunshine, and I know how to grow a network. And so there are certain elements that I've implemented in that. And here is the key. And I always open up, good morning, BX South Brisbane. There is power in proximity.
yeah,
And there is. You are the
yeah.
average of the people that you spend the most amount of time with. They
Mm,
really form what you think about, what you
mm,
talk about, what you think about, which ultimately is what you bring about. So you need to surround yourself with the right people. And so I was simply looking for my own tribe. And so one of the things I would recommend, I mean, unless you've
mm,
got an exceptionally great organic, or not even organic, but a very uh, methodical way of getting in clients or leads, prospects, and you
mm,
know that if you're going to invest X amount of dollars in social media, paid advertising, you're going to get a Y return. For the vast majority of businesses, that's not always going to be the practical way to get started. It's a very expensive thing, particularly if
mm,
you're trying out what works for you, SEO, backlinks. All that sounds really, really good, but not everyone starts a business with having those sort of financial resources to be able to invest and try and see what works. As you mature, yes, but let's be real. In the beginning, when you're starting a business, even when you're growing and scaling the business, even up till today, I'm still part of BX and multiple other networks because
mm,
it is important to keep that channel of referrals, which are always going to be the strongest lead source because they're trusted partnerships. So, Jonno, if I referred you to someone who wanted, training, leadership, they're going to be a lot more likely to engage with you because of my referral, because
mm,
I'm respected in my space. So there's no doubt it's a lot stronger. There's better conversions in that. It's a lot cheaper as well, by the way. I mean, it does require a bit of time. So you got to find your tribe. And so one of the things is identify a few networking groups, which I did, by the way, and I don't mind sharing it. I went to BNI, I went to BX, I went to KBN, I went to Chamber of Commerce's, I went to different communities, different ethnic communities. I mean, I've been to that many networking groups. It's really not funny. But I needed to find where I resonate most with. It's not so much just the leader that you need to resonate. You need to resonate with the values of the business,
mm,
of the network. You need to look at the tribe or the group of people that you're going to be surrounding yourself with. And
mm-hmm.
admittedly, when I started with BX, there was only 8 members. But I remember my dad saying, "Son, you're either part of the problem and you can complain, whinge, and whine, or you can be part of the solution." Now, I had
Mm,
respected the methodology, which is the process and the system behind BX and how there's these paid forward slips and how it works. I believed in it. And so I was going to be part of the solution. And that's
mm,
how I was like, you know what, I'm going to drive this and grow it. But I did not expect it to be the largest group in the world, believe it or not. But that's a
yeah.
byproduct of me just truly believing, the philosophy, the values of what BX has given me. I mean, I've closed over
Mm,
$680,000 in business, in closed business
mm,
with BX. So, it
wow.
certainly works. So I think as you're starting out, find your tribe. Really align yourself with the community that you resonate mostly with. And I would say just really understanding why you're getting into it. Really
Mm,
understanding what is your main purpose joining a business network. If it's simply to get leads, you're in the wrong group.
mm,
It has to be more than that. It has to be you want to go there to make an impact. I would
mm,
suggest that you're looking there to build friendships because your finance will come from the friendships
mm,
you develop. It's
yeah.
taken me 7 months before I saw any return on investment in BX. And I was
Mm,
reminded that, it does take a
wow.
while, but you've got to be
Mm,
consistent in it. But my why was strong. There was two whys. One is I came into a brand new state. I moved from Sydney to Brisbane about 5.5 years ago, and I knew nobody. And so for me,
mm,
I wanted to grow my network. I wanted to grow my influence, my inspiration, my impact. I want to be known. And that was my main motivation. And so
Yeah.
getting it right is important. But if it's all about selling, getting leads, getting clients from a network, it doesn't quite work that way. So you've got to establish
Mm.
in the first place. And then as I mature, one of the key things is building enough of my partnership referral networks that I can refer my clients to, professionals that they would
Mm.
require as they continue to build their investment property portfolio.
So let's say we've got someone who's been doing BX for 2 years and
Mhm.
they are struggling to close business through BX, and then you've got someone else who's doing six figures. What do you believe are the key differences between people who are successful through something like BX in turning it into referral dollars versus someone who's not getting that? Because this is something you hear. I tried that. I didn't get any um, sales from it. What do you see is are some of the key differences between someone who's not getting anything and someone who is successful?
It's a really good question, Jono. If I look back on the two or three handfuls of people that I know that have really been successful at BX or CBN or KBN or BNI or Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network, um, I know that the common denominator amongst all those that have done quite well is really just, and I go back to the sense of purpose. They have a genuine, authentic purpose why they're there.
Mm.
And too many people go in to get these wins. So unless you have a paradigm shift, if you're
Mm.
going there to add value first before you ask, I think that's where, Henry, I remember he became a team member. And I'll tell you his story because he
Yeah.
knew how to network, right? His very first question he asked me was, Colin, how do I make you look good? Something to that. I'm probably not paraphrasing it word for word. And I said, what do you mean, Henry? He says, how can I make you be better? How can I help you to shine more? I mean, he knows that I'm a star. He knows that I'm out there and trying to get, and I simply said to Henry, I said, well, one thing you can do is to invite guests along. And on his third meeting, Jono, this is no word of a lie, he brought 27 guests.
Oh my god.
Now, do you think he added massive value to me? Do you think he's not got my attention? Big time,
Yeah.
and I always say, if you can, I mean, if you can be a client, if Henry could be my client, obviously that would be ideal. And so if someone becomes your client, that's great. That's how you would add value. But you don't want to become someone's client just for the sake of getting their attention. It has to be a genuine need and a genuine
Mm.
fit for what you need, right? If Henry doesn't want to build an investment property portfolio, not to say that he doesn't, but if he doesn't want to do that, there's no point him engaging and paying me for my service. Yes, he's going to get my attention, but there's no point him not needing the product. And the
Mm.
second thing was add value and connect, the person that you're trying to get an attention with your ideal client. And sure enough, he did. The most of the 27 people that he brought were people in the space that he knows that would formulate. And I still have good partnerships and relationships with those original 27 people that he brought along.
Wow.
And third one, get personal. Henry and a couple of other people are the only two people from BX or three people from BX that I've personally invited to meet my family.
Mm.
And that doesn't happen very often because I do want to keep personal and professional, aside.
Yeah.
But he had found out that he knew that my daughter loves jigsaw puzzles, and so he made an effort. He literally came with a beautiful box of Japanese biscuits and a box of
Mm.
jigsaw puzzles, and it became more personal. So Henry and
Mm.
I have become really good friends out of that. So I think
Yeah.
engage whoever you're trying to connect with for their service. Utilize the service. I mean, if it's
Mm.
small enough entry point, give it a go. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Or connect them with an ideal paying client, or connect them with an ideal referral that would have the ideal client that's complementary and not in competition. Or thirdly, get
Mm-hmm.
personal with them. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And Henry is
Yeah.
someone that genuinely cares about someone. And so he knows what I like. And Now Henry asked me to do anything, I would, and
Yeah.
he's become very close in my circle. So I think the key here is participation.
Mm.
Um, People give up too easily. I've gone to 4BX meetings. I got all these paid forward slips, and it doesn't work. Well, I mean, you know, you make it work. You get what you put in it, and that's the reality. But like I said, if you
Yes.
resonate with the group, if there's good values, the vision is aligned, get in there, get dirty, get into the trenches, add
Mm.
massive value. You've got to do that. People think they can ask before they add value. That's the wrong way to look at it. You've got to add value first before you ask.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big key.
That's good.
Mm.
That's fantastic, actually. Wonderful advice. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mhm.
Uh, just as we come towards the end, I just want to ask you very quickly. Say
Mhm.
that there is a listener, they're a leader, and they're thinking about investing in property. So
Mhm.
they're tick tick tick. They're Colin's ideal potential client, but who's at the starting point. Um, any tips on how to start thinking about entering the property market? For their investment portfolio.
Thank you for that, John. I mean, this is what I live and breathe every single day. Let me just paint a bit of a picture very quickly. We are living in a generation where we're aging. According to the World Bank now, our life expectancy is now reaching mid 80s, 85,
Mm.
call it, all right? It's about 83
Yep.
and a half. Some studies are showing in the next 20 years, we would potentially live up to 90 years old as the average life expectancy. Did you know, Jono, only back in the 60s and the 70s, the life expectancy was about 70. That's the average,
Wow.
you know? So
Mm.
we are living now longer than ever before. Now, if you look at the official retirement age for most Australians, it's 65. Between 65 and say 85, there's an extra 20 years of living to do, right?
Hmm.
The average super for the vast majority of Australians, females sitting about 120, males are sitting at about 180. Now let's be optimistic and let's say $200,000 because you've earned a few extra years. 200,000 divided by 20 years of living is about $10,000 a year. Now,
Mm.
that's the reality. So, what's happening is 44% of Australians at the moment are depending on the government's age pension. Nearly half of Australian um, uh, retirees are depending on the pension.
Mm.
And so you may think at this point in time that everything's all going to be okay. And this is also part of, I guess, the Australian mentality, which is something that's a bit of a culture shock for me. It'll be all right, mate. You just work hard and things will work itself out.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality anymore. And so the
Mm.
reality for most people is they're having to work longer than ever before
Mm.
to sustain and to live, which is crazy. I think at 65, I mean, I want to retire at 50, and
Mm.
live my life and work if I wanted to work and have that freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
So my advice is if you've got a better plan, execute that plan. I don't know many, many, many other alternatives, to be quite
Mm.
open with you. I mean, there's shares, stocks, business, crypto, etc., etc. I've just
Mm.
never made money on any of that. I know some
Mm.
people that make some real good money from shares and stocks and crypto or business. But I think you can do both. You can do multiple. You can have multiple investment strategies. I just simply love property because it's solid, it's stable, and it's safe for the vast majority of people.
Mm.
It's not complex. Properties can be very forgiving. I mean, if you buy any property, I promise you 20 years ago, it could be the worst property, worst street, worst house. I don't care. You would
Mm.
make some pretty serious money if you bought any properties 20 years ago. So
True.
it can be very forgiving. So my
Mm.
encouragement, anyone who's considering this, is what plan do you have to set yourself up for retirement? Are you in a position to retire in 10 years, 20 years? Do you have a plan in place? And I hate to say this, but 99% of my clients that I speak to, they don't have a plan. And
Mm.
it sounds so cliche, and please pardon me. You're planning to, if you fail to plan, you're simply planning to fail. So
Yeah.
you must have a plan together, in building your portfolio. And so I talk a lot about. I've just completed a book. It's called "Play the Property Game: How to
Mm.
Master the 8 Key Principles to Build a Profitable Property Portfolio." One of the key fundamentals I always talk about is understanding your why. Now
Mm.
let me be very candidly open about this. I've got 8 investment properties. I should have 10. But you know why I sold those two? Because I made a mistake. I forgotten my why in doing this, so I gave up. Because the reality is, property building is not all rainbows and sunshine. You're going to have really tough days, you're going to have good
Yeah.
days. So even for a professional like me, I have to
Mm,
be reminded of my purpose. What am I doing? I'm setting myself up for my family. Am I happy to go through some pain and sacrifice in the journey of that? Absolutely. But you've got to keep being reminded of your why. Otherwise, I promise you're going to give up too easily. You get a
mm,
difficult tenant, you get someone who forgets to pay their rent or trashes the house. That's it. You're out of it. And too many people lost like significant amounts of money because they simply have given up too quickly. So I think having established a strong purpose is important. I talk about the 8 Ps, and just to summarize that, if you're thinking about getting it, just help get some professional help to help you understand why you're doing it. Now, assuming you do and you're motivated and you're driven to set yourself up for the future and have some sort of financial capacity, you need to develop a winning psychology as well. Surrounding
mm,
yourself with good people. I've got mentors around me that are always challenging me, but also encouraging me. I've got mentors that have got a lot bigger businesses and a lot more properties in their portfolio. As a rising tide goes, all boats go up. So the right psychology is important. And then there's power and proximity. The
mm,
proximity is so important because they really influence what you think about, what you talk about, what you think about, and what you bring about. So there's power and proximity. And then it's about having a plan. I think for the vast majority of people, buying a property is a good idea, but you've got to begin with the end in mind. So knowing
mm,
that if you want to retire in 20 years, how much net equity position you're going to need, how much passive income you're going to require in order for you to sustain and pay your lifestyle is important. So having a plan is important. The other one's having the right platform. It's all 8 Ps. But the platform is knowing that there are multiple entities you can build your portfolio. So firstly,
mm,
most people buy it under their personal name, but you've got trust structures, company structures, and then you've got self-managed super fund, which is starting to become an emerging market. And then there's a hybrid. But there's no one size that fits all. So there's different structures that's relevant to you. But what is the best structure for you? And it depends on your objectives, your risk profile, what you do for your career. That's important. And then sixth is the partners. There are 15 partners you're going to require. I call it your A team. And that's why
mm,
BX and CBN and all these is great, because now I have accountants, coaches, building and pest inspectors, property managers, sales agents. It's a myriad of people. You need 15 of those as you build your portfolio. Now, if you're planning doing anything professional, you want to make sure you assemble the best team of people
mm,
around you to facilitate that portfolio. Seventh is your profit. So understanding your profit model. Is it going to be a cash flow play, or is it going to be a capital growth play? Or is it going to be anything in between? So
yep.
understanding that profit model is exceptionally important. And last but not least, and only then do we talk about the right property. That should be the very last question you ask. And Jono, the amount of times property investor or someone who wants to get started on the property portfolio going, Colin, what's the best property to buy? Where's the best location to buy?
Yeah.
It's putting the cart before the horse. You got to put the horse before.
Mm.
So you got to begin with the fundamentals first, and then you can talk about what is the best property to look at.
I love that because, yeah, so many people would start with the property, but as you're explaining, all those 7 Ps that go before the
Mm,
property. Awesome. Okay, well, let's finish with some Leadership Express questions. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, and just
sure.
off the top of your head, what comes to mind? You ready?
Hmm.
Okay, first one is, what book have you gifted the most to others?
Oh, gifted. What
Or
have I gifted?
recommended. If there's a book you're always recommending, that's fun too.
Wow. You stumped me there for a minute. Um, be the dumbest guy in the table. I think that's a big one for me. You
Okay.
don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Know Your Why from Ken Costa is a big one for me. Not to be confused with Start with Why with Simon
Yes.
Sinek. That's also a very, very good book. I inspired the book The Secret to Teen Power, so I'm a little bit biased with that one there. If you've ever heard of The Secret to Teen Power is actually my inspiration to the producers and the author. That was
Oh,
a really
cool.
yeah, that's
Wow.
really good. Yeah.
They're great. And I can't remember if I've had that. What was the why book? Because I know the Simon Sinek one, but what was the one you mentioned that's not to be
Know
confused
Your
with it?
Why. So
Know your
Simon
why.
Sinek is Start with Why.
Yes.
Um, but Ken Costa is the chairman of UBS. And he's also the chairman of Alpha, but he runs UBS Europe, I think, and they've
Yeah.
got trillions of dollars funds under management He's an incredible guy. Yeah, so Know Your Why is the book. That's
Awesome.
probably the
Love
one
it.
I recommend the most, actually.
Yeah, okay. Great recommendations, all of them.
Mm.
Okay, a bit of a fun one. A movie or TV show that really impacted you. Anything that you've watched that you think it's really good. I've had Golden Girls mentioned before, so it can be kind of nostalgic. Or
Mm.
something that for some reason is just a really influential movie or TV show.
I'm not a big movie buff, I must say. Wow, I think The Pursuit of Happiness was
Oh
Forrest
yeah.
Gump is another one. A Beautiful Mind. I know I'm a little bit old school here.
No, they're fantastic movies. I think you're
Yeah.
listing off Oscar nominees there, aren't you? So I think you must have good taste. Yeah, they're all great movies. Yeah, Pursuit of
Yes.
Happiness, A Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe. Um,
Yes.
okay, last question. If you could only give one piece of leadership advice to a young leader, what
Mm.
would you say?
Um, wow. I say don't underestimate your inspiration and your light. So that is, don't ever think that you can't be an inspiration for others and
Mm,
therefore inspire, but be inspired at the same time. Keep an open mind, be a sponge to learn, to ask questions, be daring to ask questions. So really it's four words: inspire and be inspired.
I love that. Wonderful advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to know more about Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network, or maybe they were just thinking about which property to buy, and now they're going, oh man, I've got 7 P's I need to work out before that. Where can they connect with you, Colin?
Yeah, you can go to my website. So, inspirerealty.com is my business website. You can book yourself in for a discovery chat. There's no obligation. I hope you learned something. If you're lucky, you get me, but otherwise, it'll be one of my team members that would have that conversation with yourself. So that's Inspire Realty. That's Realty, not to be confused with reality. So inspirerealty.com. But if you're looking to be part of a network, certainly BX is something that I go quite regularly. It's the BX South Brisbane group that I go regularly. But having founded Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network, which is very much my mission in helping the whole generation of Kingdom entrepreneurs to really look at their marketplace as their ministry, you just simply visit Kingdom Entrepreneurs, if you can spell entrepreneurs, org. That's ORG.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank our listeners for tuning in, and I enjoy having these conversations where we get a little bit, yes, we talk leadership, but we talk individual journey, and we were also talking a bit about property and a bit about networking, which I really enjoy. So thank you for tuning in. But most of all, I want to thank you, Colin, for sharing your story with us and that pivotal moment, 19, when your dad walked into the room. Wow, that's something I'm never going to forget. Hearing you share that, and really appreciate that. Really encouraged and challenged me, and I'm sure it did for our listeners too. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Jonno.